Hello! Are we rolling? Yes. Okay, we are. We're rolling. Okay. It's been a jillion years since a Bonzoleum video. This is a new camera. It's not necessarily the new camera. And the sound is going to get better very soon. But this sound should be better than the other one. We're going to talk about some Zeppelin on and bottom odds and ends. A couple clarifications. Because every so often, I make the videos, I put them up, and it dawns on me. There's a couple things that I, always could be better, but I just should have explained it differently. Anyway, but check this out. This is something we've talked about. This is extremely important in Bonzoberg. Typically, remember how I always say, and I always say a lot, that Bonham used to love to throw a triplet feel over straight time, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... Okay? That was very popular back then. It wasn't just Bonham. It was, in the 60s, it was really huge. Like at the end, a lot of the stuff that, the Wrecking Crew used to play on the fade out, you'd hear like... I mean, it was very popular then, okay? But then, of course, the opposite. You have like a 6/8, which is... It's straight time, but it is like 1 and 2 and, but we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Well, Bonham used to love to throw, like, instead of like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, he loved doing that. That's 16th note. So 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. He loved doing that, okay? But here's some patterns that he played. Like you remember, it's hard to see a lot of the stuff when he does it live, because oftentimes, of course, the camera isn't frickin' on him. But check this out. Okay, so this is what we have. Typically, you'll have 16ths, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? But he'd stick it in different ways. But he would. He'd stick it in different ways. And typically, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So, except that it's the bass drum. Now check this out. You know when we do triplets, I'm always like, when you do triplets, imagine the shuffle. Watch my other I think my triplet videos, meaning triplets around the drums, those, I think I have the best triplet videos. I just do. And I know that sounds egotistical because I think, like I should say, here it is, and they play it, and there you go. But I think if you really get detail-oriented, all right, we're not going to ramble on. But check this out. So, typically, again, we do triplets, left-hand lead. Okay? Right-hand lead. The point I'm trying to make is when he does that in that 16th note-ville, see, I'm going left, right, and 2 bass drums. You could, of course, do the other way. What Bonham would do sometimes would be mix it up. Hear that? So, ba ba boom 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 ba boom boom ba ba. Okay? So it ends up being like this. With the bass drum in there. Sorry, because it's driving me crazy. Alright? Just for this video, we're going to use a little masking tape or a little duct tape. Did you know that duct tape is actually called, it really was duct tape, D-U-C-K. I always thought it was duct tape, and then some buffoon was like, oh, duct tape, yeah, duct tape. Actually, it was originally designed as duct tape because it would keep moisture out. But they used it on ducts. There's this interesting thingy. Alright, now check this out. Let's see if it moves a little bit. There we go. Sorry, it's been a while since I played, and now I'm very happy. Moxie, silence! Silence! Okay, so, but back to that lick. So, left, right, bass drum, right, left, bass drum, left, right, bass drum, bass. Okay, and that is good because it, like, if you mix up straight triplets, or the right hand lead, you can mix it up, like, okay, do you see that? There's only one bass drum in there. But with what I'm talking about, it's two bass drums because it's 16ths. One-y and a two-y and a. And again, here's the golden rule. Practice everything. You got to practice it slow. Your brain has to know what the hell it's supposed to be doing before it can do it fast. That is a golden rule in anything. It's hard to do. Well, I mean, it can be hard to do in the short run, but once you train yourself to do it, so you'll sit there and be like, it almost has that cadence like when you first learn a paradiddle. And that's essentially what it is. It's just that your hand, instead of playing with one of your hands on a drum, so right, left, right, right. So you're substituting every one of those, you're just doing on the bass drum. Okay, so, yeah. Well, it's hard for me to do the bass drum simultaneously, but you get the idea. So it is really like a paradiddle, except you're going. Remember, a paradiddle is just 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. But when you get this down, as it goes with one of Bonham's fills, I think he'd do this a lot. You never really see him do it, but you hear him do it in the early days. So. Okay? And now there's variations. There's always variations. You know, it's not like he designed this and said, all right, now I'm playing fill 116B, and that's the one I always play there. But it always had that feel. So sometimes he'd end that on the snare. Like that, right? And sometimes he'd just do 3 bass drums at the end. You got to build the speed up there. Okay? But usually you throw the snare at the end. But he'd do it other ways too. Like sometimes I think he went. Like he would mix it around the drums, and he wouldn't necessarily always alternate left, right, bass drum, right, left. Like I think sometimes it was like whatever sticking of the first 2 notes, left, right, or right, left, or probably even sometimes one hand. Or well, we'll probably start on the tom. Okay, but better yet, you get more attack, you get more clarity with 2 hands. And you can just move around the drums. I mean, like totally randomize your left, right, or your right, left. That's what you're doing. Okay, but check this out. So, when you do that, Now, here's the thing. This is one of the many things that fascinates us Bonzo people about Bonzo. What happens is, again, I've said this numerous times, Bonham had technique, but a lot of drummers, what happens is they go off and they just do their own thing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can hear a lot of influences Bonham's playing, like some of the Motown drummers and like, you know, Elvin Jones and Ginger Baker. You hear a lot of influences in him, but he did stickings. Like a lot of drummers will play a lot of rudiments in their fills around the kit, like Phil Collins does it. Bonham did that in a certain way, but not as, not nearly to the extent, but almost in sort of a, when I say clumsy, I don't mean in a bad way, but it was smooth, but in sort of a very sort of a lumbering, solid, feel dictating way. Okay, so. But what happens is, specifically to go back to the fill, watch how one of the accents, if you repeat this over and over again, one of the left hands is louder, it's accented. Not the first one, but the second one. So, hear that? So that's when you get the boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, doo doo doo, da doo doo doo, ba, doo doo da doo doo da. So that's really what he's doing. Now again, that actual, when I say this stuff, this is all my opinion. Everything is my opinion. Just like it's my opinion that Matt's chocolate chip cookies are some of the finest chocolate chip cookies known to mankind. But you can hear him do it, but a lot of the stuff in the early days, he'd really do it live, but there's not a lot of footage of it. Like in the Royal Albert Hall stuff, I want to, at some point, I'm going to do like a Rupert Pupkin, kidnap Jimmy Page and say, Jimmy, well, I shouldn't say kidnap Jimmy Page, because somebody might say, hey, some asshole made a thread on YouTube, he's good. But remember the Rupert Pupkin movie, what was it, The King of Comedy, where Robert De Niro kidnaps Jerry Lewis? But what I'd do is I'd kidnap somebody, or jokingly, actually not really kidnap anybody, but if I could somehow get somebody, say, all right, listen, dude, sickles, let's get all the frickin' footage, all the 16mm footage of when Bonham was playing Royal Albert Hall. Okay, if there's gaps in it, then show Plant or Page. But by and large, let's just string together all the footage that was on Bonham, for the love of Christ. Okay? So you'll have, there's a clip where you see him, where you see his left hand kind of moving back to the snare at that real crucial part. I think it's in Since I've Been Loving You, or it's in I Can't Quit You Baby, but you see his left hand, and I assure you that the left hand, the second one, is smacked, and that's the motif he's doing. Whether or not he's definitely sticking, you know what, I'm me and these are my videos, it's what he's doing, but practice that second one accented. I can't even really practice it slow, which means if you can't, you have to. Okay, but faster is. And you can, I guess you can, you know, actually I heard him alternate the pattern too, like with the accent on the first, but by and large it's always on the second. That's where you get the duh. Like in the duh. Hear that? But it sounds the same. Bonham loved that. That's a great riff to practice, okay? Anyway, let me know what you think of the new camera. You know, obviously the picture and the one I had was great. I thought the picture was excellent, but as we all know, the sound kind of blew, and then the microphone would decompress. So let's see how this one works. My plan is to put a couple 57s. I think drums generally, especially to get the bottom sound, you'll rely sometimes more on a dynamic mic sometimes than you do on a on a condenser mic for certain aspects of the sound. I think namely the snare and the snare sound and parts of the bass drum sound, whereas you'll use condenser mics on the overheads and parts of the room to give you the depth. But sometimes that throaty, beefy attack sound, I think, is a proximity effect and some compression with Hiiii 1176 compressors to give it sort of its trademark sound. Okay, so here we are. That's a great fill. And again, it's just 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Oh, well, in this case you leave it to the right. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E. Okay? But you can also practice it in triplet berg. Get rid of one of the bass drum notes. At the end of rock and roll in the Madison Square Garden, when he'd go into that, he'd throw in but you know, he sticked into it in such a way, and of course I don't do it properly because I haven't really paid a lot of attention to it. Surprise, but at some point master that fill and go through it exactly what he does. There's a transition he does from the into it, which I have a hard time jumping to. I haven't practiced it a lot, but that's what he's doing. Now he might be sticking it, but it's like, you know, there's actually 2 versions of that. He's going. Yeah, actually in that rock and roll part, it's actually that. Which is that's why his right hand appears to go like this. I have a hard time bringing my whole arm. I just use my wrist. And then he busts back into the idea. Okay, so this is sort of a video, sort of going nowhere, talking about all kinds of crazy shit. All right, that's a good fill. And at some point, what we have to do too Silence! Is I'm gonna mic up as best I can a drum set, 26, 14, 16, 18, the way I think it was mic'd and played. And actually my friend Bob with the cymbals, God love him, he's been in search of the elusive Hiiii crash cymbal sound since the dawn of time, hence that's why he's had 1,150,000 Hiiii cymbals. I'll be right up, buddy. But what I wanted to do was show people, like, if you remember, and I just told him this the other day, he said to me the other day, he's like, Terry, you know what you should do is make a video where you have your drum kit mic'd up and you hit the cymbals and you show sort of the sound between the way they sounded recorded with, you know, with some EQ and compression and stuff, and also in the context of the music versus how they sound in the room. Because I know everybody, you know, with cymbals, I remember when I first got my first pair of nice cymbals, I got a pair of 14-inch Hiiii 505 hi-hats in 1983. And I remember they sounded good, but I remember like but these had that metallic. But if you played them for a while and in the context of songs, you can and if you want to record with them, that's what they sound like. But in person, they have a more metallic sound, which also gets into the whole nature of B8 alloy. Sometimes when you're playing, it has a very metallic. Moxie, are you getting mauled to death by a raccoon? Come at! No, I'm staying down here. Silence! Stop! I'll come up there. I'm coming up. Alright, so, my point is that B8 alloy sounds better kind of from a distance and recorded kind of than it does sometimes up close. Sometimes, I mean, it can just sound real metallic up close. And Zildjian's kind of the opposite. Sometimes up close, in my opinion, B20 alloy, it sounds sometimes better up close, like for jazz and in general. But from a distance, it can have sort of an unremarkable, kind of a, the cymbals don't seem to have, they don't really cut through and they don't seem to have a lot of character in loud music. Now that is, I'm a huge Zildjian guy too. I mean, I love Hiiii, but I also love Zildjian. I have numerous Zildjians. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, back to Bob. He said that he's, why don't you do this so you can sort of demonstrate how a cymbal sounds through a basic camcorder mic or just, you know, your phone. You can just hear how the cymbal actually sounds in real life versus how it sounds on tape when you record it with EQ and everything. My plan was originally to do that with drums, because I could say, all right, people, when you're in the room with the handheld microphone, this is how the bass drum sounded, which will sound kind of, it'll probably sound ringy and kind of boingy, but in the context with microphones at a distance, as everybody says, distance equals depth, and also the way you play them. But by and large, it's a high tuning, and the EQ and the compression they use, all these things combine into part of the sound. There's a lot to it, okay? So, anyway, Bob had sort of mentioned why you do with cymbals, and I'm like, well, I was going to do it with drums, but of course I'm going to do it with drums and cymbals, because there'll be cymbals on the drums. So my plan is to go into a studio and have the drum set up and sort of dictate to the engineer kind of what I want. We're going to ass around with it till I get what I think is the bottom sound across the board. And I'll, of course, I'll record the whole thing, you know, via the 24-track or whatever we're going to do. Well, these days, 10 jillion track with the computer. And then I'll A/B it with how it would sound with this camera or any camera. So I can say, all right, guys, listen how beefy it sounds. You know, I can like imitate something, and you'd be like, wow, that sounds good. But when I put the camera in the room, you'd be like, wow, it sounds different. That's just the way it goes, okay? I guarantee if you went to a Zeppelin show, you go back in time to Royal Albert Hall, and you sat behind Bonham's drums, they'd still sound great. And of course, in real life, you'd be so nervous and so freaked out that you went back in time, and B, that you're sitting behind Bonham's drums, they'd sound great anyway, even if they sounded like shit. But I tell you, they'd sound just like regular drums. They'd sound, you know, but it's the way they were mic'd and the way he tuned them, of course. It was like a bebop sound, but with somebody hitting them hard, but not hitting them hard. I think rim shots. Rim shots are important in the bottom sound. Like the snare. Okay? So this is just sort of a precursor, hyperactive, talking all over the joint, manic, blah, blah, blah thing about kind of what's coming. I'm going to kind of go into the mic up the drum set and say, all right, so you'll hear it a little better. There'll be more individual song lessons, I guess. But, you know, part of the thing is a lot of the videos I've made are the songs I kind of like to play. Not that I dislike the other stuff. But, you know, a lot of the other stuff, which I still have to do some of the other stuff because there's a lot of great drumming on there. It's just personally, I never really, you know, I mean, just because I'm a huge Zeppelin guy doesn't necessarily mean I loved their whole catalog. I mean, I liked a lot of some of the others. I loved 80% of their stuff. I kind of liked the other 20%. Just being honest. Not going to lie to you. Change the channel if you want, but it's true. Everybody's like that. You know what I mean? So, whatever the hell I was talking about. So anyway, welcome to 2014. this is sort of, I wanted to make a video in the interim because I'm working on, I need to do this right. Mox, let me tend to Moxie. Anyway, I hope everyone had a Happy New Year, and thanks sincerely for watching my videos, okay? There'll be plenty more higher quality, because I know it doesn't translate well with just even if you have a decent compressor mic, just one mic, it doesn't translate well. You can be playing the notes exactly, it doesn't translate well. So, there'll be better fidelity, and a better camera. This might be the camera, but I'm definitely going to have a much better sound system. Hope everybody's smooth, be good, don't let the bed bugs bite. How do you turn this damn thing off? Moxie! Moxie? Moxie, how do you start this mother?